So for us, I think we would not have survived if we didn't already have one flywheel going. So for us, I think for any successful business or business that's growing, you likely already have one. For us, Amazon, like we really got Amazon when we launched in 2015. We launched on Amazon and Shopify. We just focused on Amazon. It worked for us. It didn't take a lot of management. It produced, enough cash to then start hiring and working on that second flywheel. So once you have one flywheel, take that, borrow that, and move on to the second. I think that's seems to me as the easiest way to scale. And I know this isn't true for everyone, but for us, we took all the earnings, not all, but a portion of those earnings from Amazon as it scaled from 2015 to 2017, and then in 2017 put those into growing our own store sales, Shopify, specifically through getting Facebook working and Facebook ads, that whole flywheel, and then using adaptation and experimentation to get that going, because then you have that something to fall back on. Because if we hadn't had reserves, we couldn't have taken 5 negative months of losing money. And those 5 negative months were in a large part due to scaling the team and resources, and then scaling Facebook marketing spend in particular, and then just having that money to invest. I would say again, just made all the difference. And so yeah, good to great flywheel concept. I love applying it to just an area of business. I think you often see it as applied to a whole business, like Amazon's flywheel. Shorter technology and shipping times and making customers happy. So I think certainly, obviously, you can have it as applied to a whole business, but I think you can also have it in areas like, how does your, this part of your business, this flywheel work, and how does it support other parts, whether that's influencer marketing or Facebook or content or email.
Garret, could you explain a little bit the flywheel concept if somebody hasn't read the book? Like, what does it mean exactly to create a flywheel in one area of your business?
So the flywheel concept is this concept that if you continually improve or start a process of continual improvement, that this consistency kind of creates this self-generating wheel. So for us, using like Amazon as an example, we started out with just 3 products on Amazon and spending a lot of time understanding A9 and the algorithm there, and how to rank products on Amazon, how to get reviews, what those email sequences and follow-ups look like to get reviews, what inserts looked like. So then we started accumulating results, which in Amazon's terms would be sales for that product, and reviews. And then you organically would get more and more sales because your A9 ranking for Amazon's A9 algorithm, you would rank higher. If you're all of a sudden in the top, you get in the top 12, and then you get in the, your number 5. And then if you can get up 2 or 3, that kind of goes to, people start lining up, they get energized by the results. But I think also just customers start seeing you. And it just, this whole process, it builds momentum where your Amazon pay-per-click improves and gets better and better because you've learned more there. Your product inserts get better on how to solicit reviews. Customer care gets better on how to filter out negative reviews. And you kind of build this entire little ecosystem or flywheel of just continually improving an area of business. As applied in Good to Great, it's to an entire company. And we've always just applied it to an area. And then taking that, then applying it to Facebook, how we improve those ads, how we improve our conversion rate, how we improve our return on ad spend, et cetera, et cetera.
How could you create a flywheel in Shopify? I'm selling on Amazon and starting my Shopify store. What would be your advice around creating a flywheel in Shopify?
A flywheel within Shopify. So I don't Well, okay. I will say not within Shopify, right? Because Shopify is your platform that you're using. And I think you would then have to decide, are you going to create a flywheel around content? And at least in my mind, I would break it up. Like, are you going to focus on just really great content? Does the product lend itself to great content with little to no actual ad spend? An example of this would be like fringe sport, right? Killer content via email and other areas. They don't spend money on advertising. So there's plenty of e-commerce examples that their flywheel is just that really great customer connection and voice and content. So that to me is kind of a flywheel. How you would build that out. Another flywheel would be around ad spend. Like, how are you going to create an entire build or flywheel around specifically Facebook spend and Instagram spend, which means you're going to have some content, but not nearly as much as the other. And you're going to have to probably, have great static ads, great imagery. So creating a flywheel around that would be, creating the assets or finding the team to create the assets, and then just testing using marketing, however much you're comfortable with on the marketing side, spend to then drive to collection or PDP pages. And then I think that's where it goes back to the flywheel does in all these cases to your site is you're going to have to pages and PDP pages, product detail pages, to increase your conversion rate. For us, the big focus there, if you're looking at, if you were just looking at Shopify, would be how, for us, we focus on how do you increase AOV. Because if you're going to go after the flywheel for, paid spend, your AOV has to be high enough to support that. I think if you have an AOV, in the 30 or 40, even the $50 range, is going to be really tough for you just to get anywhere. So one thing you could, and if you don't concentrate on it first, you could later, you will have to, is increasing AOV. And that's going to be cross-selling or upselling, whether that's in your cart or before cart, and it's probably both, and playing with pricing. So it's going to be, product mix, pricing mix, and, maybe playing with your free shipping threshold to really get all of those in alignment and working. It's amazing how many different small things you can tweak in there that can make a big difference. But so I kind of, going back, content to me is kind of a content flywheel, a paid advertising flywheel. I think either of those need email, certainly. So I don't know that I would consider that a quote flywheel, although maybe you could. And another flywheel, which I don't know a lot about, would be like an influencer one in my mind. Like if you're using YouTube influencers or Instagram influencers, and then a fourth one would be affiliates. Like you could just perfect the whole affiliate game. I know there's entire companies that are just built off affiliate commissions, and they really get that. So I kind of use the flywheel concept of what is your core of how you grow and scale your business, at least one area.
Do you have any other examples of companies out there with a really good flywheel that you look at and you're like, oh, they're doing a great job in this scenario?
Good question. I don't know that I really do. In particular, I know only because they were the main Build a Bigger Business competition winner, Gymshark. Talking to them, we know Ben, the founder. Their flywheel on influencers, obviously, is phenomenal. They didn't spend much on advertising compared to what they spent on influencers and those contracts. So I know at the time talking to him, we got a lot of feedback and advice on how to build out, an influencer kind of flywheel, down to contracts and how they write their contracts and length and how they approach people. It didn't, I will say it didn't really work for us, or we didn't, that's not where we chose to focus. Because again, you got to address where you are, what industry you're in, right? And then will it work for you? So I think influencers work obviously incredibly well for Gymshark, but if you're in maternity and breastfeeding, that's 9 months, right? So how are you going to be an influencer 2 years later? their big thing is like 2, 3 to 5 year contracts with influencers. Well, it doesn't, that flywheel wouldn't work for us.